right, so the case of Eddie Gallagher is finally concluded in the courthouse. Yeah, we were certainly hoping for a different sentence, but at the same time, that's not something that's finalized. There's still a lot of post-sentencing procedures to go through, going up to the convening authority and everything. So the sentence certainly is not set, and we're still working on that. And so I'm not really going to get into any more detail about that process while it's still pending.
Would you be able to comment about what the sentence says it was the maximum penalty for that offense? And given that they found him not guilty on all the other charges, what does that say?
It says that they decided to give the maximum penalty for that offense. They don't give really answers as to why they make those decisions, but that's what this jury decided. But then that's going to go up to the admiral. This is something that, I think that photo charge like this, because it's attached to a larger case, it's given a lot more importance than it would otherwise be. If you look across the services, the Army, the Navy, and Marine Corps, when they have these type of incidents, they're normally handled at non-judicial punishment as an administrative charge. And certainly we think that given that, this is something that should be taken into consideration.
How would you describe Chief Gallagher's reaction? He looked significantly less happy leaving after this sentencing today than he looked yesterday.
Well, look, under no circumstances was he ever going to go back to jail, but really the effect of this sentence, if it stays as it was announced today, it goes to his pension. So really he's looking forward now to, he's put 20 years of his life, the best years of his life into the Navy, and then this affects what his retirement paycheck is going to be and benefits for the rest of his life, and his ability to provide for his family. So
and let's not miss the forest for the trees here, right? I mean, the jury delivered a massive, huge, sweeping victory to the Gallaghers yesterday. Today, there's an administrative, what I would call an administrative setback that we can keep talking about, keep fighting for, keep pushing to get better. But Eddie Gallagher and his wife drove out of here in a convertible, happy as hell.
That's true.
It was an SUV.
Yeah, today was an SUV.
Don't ruin my line.
What does it mean in terms of perks? Anything that you can see that you could be upset about from going from an E7 to an E6? Or money?
I mean, he's going to be retiring. Eddie Gallagher is going to be retiring. This has been a long and difficult process for him. He's been exonerated of the most serious charges, and it's time for him to go be with his family.
And as we know, nearly all the platoon members posed with the body. So is it some of them testify without immunity? Is there fear that some of them could also be facing these kinds of charges, or would you be arguing that if he's facing such a punishment, what's going to happen with the others?
Fear? I don't fear the idea that Chief Miller is going to be investigated and charged with perjury and posing with a dead body. In fact, I think that that's something that they should consider.
What about with Pirlo?
It's up to his command.
That's up to his command. He came in. He told the truth. He didn't have to. He had the option of keeping silent, but he came in and said his story and exposed himself by showing that he had taken a picture, something that all the other witnesses had also done, but had chosen not to reveal.
And remember, the government threw in extraneous charges here, right? They tried this as a murder case, and they lost.
Right.
They tried to backpedal and try it as a attempted murder case, and then an assault case, and the whole thing went spinning down the drain, down the toilet bowl. And a photograph and retaliation and obstruction and various random shootings, the jury just rejected all of that.
Yeah.
The photograph thing, it is what it is, and we'll keep fighting it. But this was a murder case that they got wiped out on.
Yeah.
Chief Gallagher said that he wanted to move on and was ready to move on. Does this, I know you say it's not done yet, so for the Admiral, would this particular penalty prevent him from moving on as fast as he wanted to?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. He's going to be moving on with his life. All of the follow-on procedures that I talked about, that's lawyer stuff in the back room. That's that's us writing a lot of stuff. Actually, it's going to be Major Candelario writing a lot of stuff. So.
So how does it impact him in moving forward?
It won't. You know, he will move forward. I mean, it affects what his ultimate pension is going to be, but he does not have to come back into a courtroom. You know, he can go now and be with his family and move on with his life, and you know, the rest of it is lawyer stuff.
And this shouldn't come as a surprise, but Eddie Gallagher is not a money guy.
Right.
The Gallaghers are not. They're not in this for the money. They were in this to fight for their country. They were in this to do service. They're in this to help people, and you know, the administrative setback we will deal with.
Is that part of why he seemed so upset when he was out here, though? That he's no longer a chief petty officer? Is anybody else concerned about?
He's still the chief petty officer. The sentence has not been approved.
Okay.
There's a process, and you only saw the first step in that process. He is still a chief petty officer.
Tim, is he not eligible for retirement though for a couple more years? Doesn't he have to do 20 years in?
His 20 years comes in 2.5 weeks.
Right. 2.5 weeks? Okay.
Tim, we heard a little bit from him today. He talked about his regret with the photo and that he felt he left a black eye on some military communities. Obviously, our cameras aren't in there. Can you just kind of summarize how he feels about having posed in that photo or those photos?
Sure. I mean, it was a regretful decision to pose in the photos. It's something that, you know, obviously if he could take that back, he would. You know, those photos have led to pretty horrific consequences for his family. You know, if he hadn't been in those photos, you know, they wouldn't have had this idea. They wouldn't have dragged his kids out at gunpoint. They wouldn't have put him in the brig for all those months. You know, he has suffered pretty horrifically for something like that. And the thing that makes Chief Gallagher such a resilient person is that he stood up, took responsibility for that, and I have no problem recounting for you exactly what he said in there, because Chief Gallagher wants that to be a lesson to everybody else, all of the other members of the SEAL community, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Army, Air Force, and all the services, of your actions have consequences. And even though he did not commit a murder, even though he did not do these shootings or anything else, yes, he made a mistake with these photos, and that's something that every leader, every warrior should think about when they're out there, because it can have significant consequences, especially if you have an NCIS agent like Joe Warpinski that wants to take that and blow it completely out of proportion. But ultimately, as the chief, he accepted responsibility. So,
one last question, guys.
Can you describe the process that you'll have to do with the convening authority for people who don't understand the military?
Actually, we can.
It is very complex.
We'll navigate it.
It's, oh yes, yeah. He has a right to an appeal. So there's a lot of different things. You know, when there are a lot of differences between, you know, the civilian court system, the military court system. In U.S. District Court, the time in between plea or a verdict and sentencing is several months, so that we can put a lot of effort into preparing for the sentencing hearing. Here it was one day, and yet in the district court there's not a lot of post-sentencing litigation. Here there's a lot. There's a lot of different avenues between all these different procedures that Major Candelario is an expert on and will be helping us through.
And Lieutenant Giannone.
And Lieutenant Giannone's moving on.
He's going to Bahrain.
Yes.
Oh, I just blew his secret cover.
If I could squeeze in one last one about Corey Scott that we haven't talked about, and
Sure.
he still has a possible perjury charging over there. I just wonder.
Well, you know what? That's a good question. There's 2 points that I'd like to address here, because while the nightmare is over for Chief Gallagher, there are 2 other individuals out here, Corey Scott and Lieutenant Portier. So Corey Scott, you know, has been threatened with perjury charges. The likelihood of him ever actually facing perjury charges is close to 0, because first of all, how do you prove if he even did commit perjury? I think that he was a pretty honest witness in there. If he committed perjury, how do you prove it? You know, they couldn't prove that Eddie Gallagher stabbed the guy, so how do they prove that Corey Scott didn't asphyxiate the guy? Yeah, it's not a viable case that any reasonable prosecutor would want to bring to begin with. But the bigger thing here is Lieutenant Portier, the platoon officer in charge, who is facing a trial in September for his failure to report a crime that we now know didn't exist. So, you know, he had a conference today about his case, and the idea that they're going to continue to go after Lieutenant Portier under these circumstances, they should recognize that this has been enough of a disaster for them and just let Lieutenant Portier go. So,
Tim, one last question. Do you want to weigh in on the possibility?
we've gone like 3 questions over the last question.
Last one.
We want to weigh in on the possibility of a pardon from President Trump on this photo charge. He's weighed in on this case multiple times
Said he
now.
was waiting for trial. Have you heard from him?
I have not.
Chief?
We have not had contact with the White House. We very much appreciate the president bringing attention to this case when he did.
Yeah.
I think it was a large part of Eddie getting out of the brig and being able to prepare properly to defend the case and bringing national attention to the case, which helps support the defense.
Yeah.
So we're extremely thankful for that. And whatever happens going forward, you know, we'll be thankful if it happens, and if not, you know, we won a huge victory. So that's out of our control.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy 4th.
Thank you.